Sure.
All right, thank you all so much for coming to our Real Talk event today. I'm super excited that we have a CJ alumna here with us today, and this is Tiffany Reedy. She is from the Harris County Attorney's Office, and she is the manager of the Protective Services Group, and her background is in child protection law. So super excited to have her here, and I'll let her introduce herself as well, and she's gonna talk about just her career path and her journey from SAM to where she is now. We'll have a chance for Q&A as well, so you'll have so as she's talking, please feel free to think of questions that you would really like to ask her, and this is your chance to network with her, network with someone who is in the industry, who's had so much experience behind her, so definitely use this opportunity. A couple of announcements before we move on with our event. So next week, I don't know if you all follow us on social media. CJ has Twitter and Facebook. We are having a film screening next week on Wednesday called The Pushouts. So if you're interested in talking about just race and diversity within schools and dropouts and pushouts and talking about the situations that are in our education system, highly recommend you coming to the film screening. We'll have a panel discussion afterwards. That's going to be at the LSC Theater on Wednesday from 1 to 3. And then our CJ Block Party celebrating the end of the semester is April 16th. That's from 11:30 to 1:30. It's going to be out here in between our building and GPAC. So we'll have food, t-shirts, fun. We're going to have a DJ. We're going to have an inflatable slide. We're going to have some yard games. It's 90s themed. So definitely make sure you come and hang out and get some lunch there with us. So, all right. So, and make sure you follow us on social media so you can keep up with all those different announcements. So without further ado, Tiffany, you have the floor.
Awesome. So it's funny to me when she says it's 90s themed, right? Because I went to SAM from 94 to 98, so I'm thinking I'm not really that old, but I think I might be old. Okay, so she told you my name's Tiffany Reedy. I graduated from the High School for Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice in Houston. So you would think this is a person who knew she wanted to do law or something, right? No, I didn't. It was just a school I went to because my parents didn't really want me around boys. So I went to a girls' school first, and I just begged to go to school and see boys. And so there was like 3 of them on the tour at the High School for Law Enforcement, so I went, right? And while I was there, they had 2 different tracks. There was a track for, people who were interested in law enforcement and policing, and there was a track for people who were interested in business. So I took the track for business, worked at a couple of law firms as an intern, and then ultimately came to Sam Houston. And so they asked me to come and speak to you guys today from a perspective of, I used to sit in your seat and now I stand here before you, so how did I get to this place, right? And I don't know how many of you are here because your teacher gave you credit to be here, but I'm so happy you're here to see me, right? You can interrupt me at any time, ask me any questions you want. I'll be happy to answer them if I can. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm something of a misfit, right? I never really wrote down a plan to be a lawyer. What I wanted to do was go to the FBI, right? So I came to SAM, and I took all of my CJ classes. I was a Bachelor of Arts and Criminal Justice major, and thought when I got to my junior year, I'm going to apply for the FBI internship. So I did. And when I applied for the FBI internship, the then director of the FBI in Houston actually gave me an interview. So that was cool, right? So I get all dressed up, go buy a suit on my dad's credit card. And I go, and because, wait, let me go back. How many of you live with parents that were like really strict when you were in high school? There's a couple in the audience. I was like 19, 20 years old. I had a 10 o'clock curfew. I wasn't going back home, right? When I came here, I had a little freedom. So I was like, hold on. If I don't find an intern and do something different, I'm going to have to go home and I'm going to have this 10 o'clock curfew. That's not going to work out so well for me, right? So I go to this interview, and Don Clark smiles at me really big. He says, sweetheart, you got the wrong degree. And I said, what? I said, no. They told me that if I took all these classes, right, and if I majored in CJ, I was gonna have a job potentially with the FBI. He says, no, if you get a law degree or an accounting degree or something analytical, that's what we're looking for. So I was like, this probably is not good for me. So I go home that weekend. My mother worked for the post office, and she was a manager at a post office in Houston, had a bunch of friends with the Houston Postal Inspection Service. She says, honey, don't cry, because at that point I'm crying, right? I'm thinking, my life's over, right? Because when you're in your seat, you think, I'm doing what these people tell me to do, I'm gonna do exactly what they say, and I'm gonna have these opportunities, right? And I didn't know what to do at that point. So Mom took over. She said, let me call a few people. Let me see if they have an intern at the Houston Postal Inspection Service. Who knew the Houston Postal Inspection Service had a police department? Well, they do, right? And I was one of the selected interns. Great for having a mama who is a manager, right? So on that intern, they did drug busts with Customs and the police department. I met Federal Judge Botley because I had to walk over search warrants and arrest warrants, because what the Postal Inspection Service does is they track packages, and when people ship drugs through the mail, they actually have a sting and a process through which they actually open these packages up by way of search warrant. There's a whole legal process behind that. Well, that's what I got to do this summer that the FBI turned me down, right? So initially I wanted to give up because I thought, what else am I gonna do? Because I hadn't planned for anything else. And I didn't know at the time that I was learning the formula to success. Have any of your teachers ever told you what that is? Because they didn't tell me. Well, I'm gonna tell you today, it's a secret. Ready? So the formula for success is when preparation meets opportunity, it equals success. If you're prepared for your opportunities when they come, you have success, right? Because it's almost like if an opportunity comes your way and somebody says, Tiffany Reedy, you're gonna work for the FBI today. We just need you to have an accounting degree and have all this other stuff. Then I gotta go get it, right? So I wasn't prepared for that opportunity. So then I started learning, okay, what are my options? What are the different things that I can do? And along the way, I started meeting different people. So 3 of the most influential people in my life when I was your age were 3 Houston postal inspectors. They take me to lunch close to my last day. And let me tell you some funny things that happened, right? So was once on a drug bust where they watched somebody receive a shipment of cocaine. We knew it was cocaine because they had opened it with a search warrant, right? And when we got to the house, they said, Tiff, you stay in the car. You're gonna come in when we're, inventorying all the stuff that we seize. And when I came in, the guy was not totally subdued. He had not been put in handcuffs. Customs hadn't cleared the area yet. HPD wasn't done. There's a bunch of stuff going on. And I was terrified, right? So I was like, policing probably ain't my thing. Because I'm okay with shooting at people. I'm just not okay with getting shot back, right? And I'm okay with helping people, but I want to run when it's like really, really bad. I want to run with everybody else. And our law enforcement officers are really, really brave because they run towards the danger, and we typically run from it. So I was like, yeah, I was figuring out some things along the way. And so through my speech today, what I hope you get from it is that you're going to learn things about yourself in your process of growing, where you need to learn how to pivot, right? Where when you're set in stone on one issue and you decide this is absolutely what I want to do, that there might be something else that you can do, that you might need to explore. And that's okay. Some people look at those things as failures. I don't, right? Because if you learn that there's something that you don't do well, are you going to keep doing it? Probably shouldn't, right? Either you're going to improve that thing you don't do well, or you're going to try to find something new. But that's a step that you step up on as opposed to just staying where you are, right? So after I worked with the Postal Inspection Service, I only had probably about 4 or 5 credits I needed to graduate. but I didn't want to go home. So I stretched my time out here at Sam. My mother, if she watches this on live stream, I'm probably going to be in a whole bunch of trouble, right? Even though I graduated in '98. And had my sorority sisters here. Tessalyn Watson is one of my line sisters. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. Social service projects were real big with us, so my life was filled with lots of things. But still, I'm getting close to graduation, and according to everything I had seen and been told, you're successful when you know you have a job after graduation, right? And I didn't have a job. I had no idea of where I was going to get a job. So I talked to my dad one night before my senior year began. That summer after I finished with the inspection service, and I said, hey, look, this police thing, probably not for me. He was like, honey, I understand. I get it. We have given you a gift of being able to go to school and not have any debt. And Dad is done, right? You're done. You got 2 more semesters and you're going to come home. And whatever you do when you get here, we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, because I thought he was going to say, oh, honey, you could stay and get another degree. He wasn't paying for that. So when I got back to school, I looked at other options. Listened to what Don Clark, remember the guy I told you was the director of the FBI at the time, told me about a law degree. So I could probably do that. Had no idea how hard it would be, any challenges. I never really had to study when I was in SAM, right? Because I didn't really have to study when I was in high school. So I said I could do this. Filled out the applications to all 3 law schools in Houston, because that's where I was going back to live. Got accepted to all 3 and chose to go to Thurgood Marshall at Texas Southern University. But there was a little hang up in my plan along the way. I found out that I thought I had the flu that July, but what I really had was a baby. So I was like, am I going to disappoint my parents? I'm not married. I'm pregnant. I don't have a job, but I got accepted to law school. So I got to tell my dad and my mom, hey, I got this baby coming. What are we going to do? Kind of thing. Now, my mama was not happy. My mama was like, oh, hell no, right? My dad said, well, honey, listen, I'm not really happy about this, but you know, blessings come lots of different ways. We're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Just if law school is what you think you want to do, go ahead and do it. So I said, okay. So I start law school. It is absolutely true, the stuff you see on TV. They tell you in the orientation, look to your left, look to your right. This person won't be here with you in 2 more years if you make it through the first year. Let me tell you that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Our class size went from like 250 something in our first year to the second semester was only like 152. That's second semester, okay? And Thurgood Marshall has they teach on a Socratic method. And it's more of a, I don't know, what do you think about that? When what you really want to know is, what's the answer, right? I don't know the answer, can you tell me the answer? But they teach you how to think in law school. And that's something I had not yet learned. And I didn't really know if law school really was for me. Because I'm very competitive, and I want to be the best in my class. But I don't really want to work that hard to do it. So when I was in law school, and I'm pregnant, now nobody knew until like the second semester because the baby didn't poke out until like December, right? So I did pretty well my first semester. I was in the top 20% of my class, right? They break you up into sections. They teach you about the basics of law. But really what they teach you how to do is study and think. And I wasn't used to studying and thinking because I could typically smile my way through grades, right? How many of y'all could do that, right? I'm telling y'all the truth. We're going to have a real conversation today, okay? I was the person who could be nice to you, sit next to you in class, not come for 2 or 3 days and be like, can I see your notes? And then it'd freak you out that I could make an A. And you've been studying really, really hard, right? You'd be like, I don't like Tiffany. I'm not helping her no more. So they have to be nice to you, right? But in law school, it was so competitive, nobody was doing that. It was like, hey, get your own outlines, right? And here's why it was that way. Because in law school, they graded us on a curve, on a steep bell curve. So if everybody in the classroom is an A student, that means everybody's a D student. Shocking, right? Because you think if I earned an A, I want my A. No. What they're doing is grading you in comparison to everybody that's like you. So if everybody that's like you is a rock star, you got to be better than a rock star to make the best grades. And that was foreign to me. And then I got this little baby growing, right? So I got all this stuff going in my brain, but I knew a couple of things. I got to see this through, because that's just how I am. And I want to make money. And I thought all lawyers were rich, and if I get this law degree and I take this test to become a lawyer, I'm going to be rich. So that was motivation enough, right? So, come back to school after the first semester. They didn't cut me. I made the cut, right? This baby's poking out. And I have a professor, a law professor, who still works at Thurgood Marshall. I won't tell you his name because you won't like him. He walked up to me and he says, hey, you might want to drop out because law school's no place for pregnant girls. And I said, excuse me, right? You're thinking you're in law school. This type of discrimination doesn't happen. It's 2001, right? And I was thinking, no, really at that time it was 1998, 99. And I was thinking, how dare you? And then he told me a second time, by myself. At first he told me in front of everybody in like this little foyer. Then he told me a second time, he's like, look, I really care about you. You might want to drop out and come back after you have the baby. And I said, you don't tell me what I can't do. And that's when I realized there was a fighter somewhere in here that when you make me mad, I'm going to show you what I can do just because you say I can't. And that was detrimental to me for a lot of different reasons. Because that stuck with me every time somebody told me I couldn't do something, right? It's like a challenge I took on. A challenge I didn't really need to take on, but I did. And it pushed me in a direction in my career for a very long time that was money-driven. And I know that all of you have heard this saying from people when you're looking for jobs, and you go to Career Center, and they tell you, pick a job you're passionate about. Don't really pick a job for money. Have you heard that? Everybody shakes their head, yeah? The answer is really, honestly, truly, they're telling you the truth. But when you don't have money, you ain't thinking about that, right? Y'all won't tell them that in the Career Center. You're just like, thank you. You know, thank you so much. And then you go and you fill out your job application. You're like, oh, they're trying to make me work this job, and, you know, it's no money. Come on, y'all, be honest with me, okay? I was you. I was that person. I was thinking, I'm going to find the job for lawyers that make the most money because that's what I want. I want the most money with the least effort. Well, there's no such thing, right? People who are billionaires, who are millionaires, they have habits I will never have. They get up in the morning, they're regimented, they study, they do all kinds of stuff that I don't do. They sacrifice in different ways that I don't sacrifice. So I'm learning, as an intern, they call us law interns when you're in law school, you become an intern. And so when everybody is interviewing in their first year to go work at these law firms and get paid like, I don't know, $4,200 every week, right? That's a lot of money when you're young, okay? I was thinking, I'm interviewing for this one, and I had them all checked off. And I show up because on paper I look really good. in my second semester because I got all the good grades. My applications say all the right things. And I walk in with this baby bump. And they say, Miss Reedy, we're not going to pick you because you talk too much. The same thing I did. He scrunched his face up a little bit, like, what? Like, where does that come from? I thought for sure they were going to say, we're not going to pick you because you got that baby up under that jacket. But they didn't. And they knew me before I knew myself, because what I didn't know is in the interview process, they watch you before you ever even enter the interview room. So I stopped. I said hi to the receptionist. I said hi to the secretary. I talked to everybody. Just like I'm talking to y'all, I talk like this all the time. And have always done this. And what they wanted was somebody to come and work from the time they come in the door to the time they leave for the day. That's not me. Right? I'm a social person. I like social people. I probably would have been very unhappy. But I was unhappy that I didn't get the opportunity to work at those large law firms because I didn't make that money. Right? Then they told me something else. Tiffany Reedy, you are applying for intellectual property positions. You will never be able to practice intellectual property law. Remember I told you about people telling me what I can't do? And I was like, oh no, I'm going to show you I can. So I set out on that track even though I had a CJ degree. Most people who practice intellectual property law practice that because they're engineers and they have an engineering background. But my mind works analytically, so I can study anything and learn it. And I worked extremely hard for a law firm that offered me a job once I graduated from law school. Took the bar the first time, passed. That little baby was born in April of 1999. She'll be 20 this month. And she marks the years that we've been out of law school. My law school class uses her birth date as a way for us to remember how long ago we were in school. And people were able to exploit my greed because I wanted to make all this money. When I graduated from law school, I thought, surely now I'm going to make money, right? I'm going to pass the bar. I'm going to make all this crazy money that they say lawyers make or that you think in your brain, right? And I made $42,000 a year working at a law firm. And the manager of that law firm told me, if you don't like it, you could go. Right? And I guess if you're not the person who owns the law firm, I guess you can go if you don't like it. But I had a baby to take care of, so I stayed a little bit. Then the guy laid everybody off. But here's where the great opportunities came in. When he laid me off, all this time, I'm learning things. I'm learning how to file lawsuits. I'm learning how to represent people. Along the way, I'm picking up skills. And then we represented, then I left that place and went and worked for a law firm that represented Destiny's Child in their litigation. I learned how to find people's money and sit on it. It's a really important skill as a business lawyer. Then left that place, went and worked for 20th Television, worked on the Texas Justice Television show for a while. Y'all are too young to know what that was. That was like a court TV show that filmed in Houston. And then shortly after that, decided to open up my own law firm. And that was difficult, right? Because even though it might be glamorous to say, oh, I represent a lot of people and I have my own law firm and I have my own business and I got my own business card, it's still business. So there's a business aspect to running a law firm as well, right? You got to market, but you got to collect money that people owe you. I'm not really good at that, right? So one of my friends decided that because in my private practice I was always helping women who were battered, women who had been the victims of domestic violence, get protective orders, and I would help those women. She was like, Tiff, you ought to work for CPS. I said, CPS doesn't have lawyers. What are you talking about? Well, they did. And she actually filled out my job application. Now my boss will find that out if she watches. my old boss. So I go to this job interview, didn't really take it seriously, and had actually decided I was done with the law. Hadn't made the money I thought I was going to make, had all these law school loans. I was going to go work for Exxon at the plant, because my whole family works at Exxon at the plant. And I know I was going to make money there, because they make a lot of money at the plant. But I said a prayer that morning. I was like, whichever job calls me first, that's the one I'll take. If that's the one, God, you want me to have, the first one that calls me, I'll take it. And almost an hour to an hour later, C.J. Broussard-White, who's now the regional director of CPS in Houston, Texas, was then the managing attorney of the regional attorneys for CPS. She calls me. She says, hey, think you want to work for us? I said, sure. Right? And by lawyer standards, money wasn't great. But by peace of mind standards, money was awesome. And that's when I learned the lesson that somebody tried to teach me when I sat in your seat. That it doesn't really matter how much money you make, it's what you do with the money you make. Right? Because you can live really good on any amount of money. It just depends on what you do with it. Okay? So I started working for CPS. And initially they tell me, oh, listen, you're going to be training the workers. I can do that. I like to talk. I can do it. So I started training the caseworkers and the program directors and all the people in CPS for the outlying counties. That would be Montgomery County, Walker County, Harris County, Chambers County, Brazoria County, Fort Bend County, all the contiguous counties for Harris County. Everything that touches Harris County. Then somebody quit and my boss says, hey, you're going to court. One thing about me y'all haven't figured out is that I stammer. I just control it really well. So a trial attorney who stammers is a really funny thing to watch. So I never really ever let myself get super nervous because I'm always prepared, or try to be. So I go to court, to CPS court. And it is just about the strangest thing I have ever experienced in my life as a lawyer. Because you're dealing with little children, and not from the aspect of representing the children. We're terminating parents' rights. My case files are all about kids who get abused sexually by their parents' boyfriends. It is the worst of the worst. I meet everybody on the worst day of their lives. When they see me, it is not a good day. And that's what I do every single day, and I've never stopped ever since she sent me to court. Because all of the stuff that led up to that moment, I realized this is why I went through every last thing I ever went through before this. Like I was born for this, right? But if you would have told me I would be doing this in 1994 when I got to this campus, I'd have said, oh no, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? Who wants to work for CPS? Not me. Nobody even likes CPS. Right? You see it on the news. Nobody likes us. You don't see you don't see anything on the news about what CPS does good, but I'll tell you they do good things. Right? They keep kids protected. Right? Well, I'm one of the lawyers that does that. And I've been doing that now since 2008. Graduated from here in 98, graduated from law school in 2001. And I've been practicing law for a long time. I'm old. I told y'all that at the beginning, right? And in 2014, I left the regional attorney's office where I was kind of like in-house counsel for CPS and came over to the Harris County Attorney's Office. So it took me a long time to build up to that, right? And at the Harris County Attorney's Office, I work for the elected official. Everybody knows what the county attorney does? In any county? No. So what the county attorney does in every respective county is they actually give advice to the elected officials in the county commissioners, about the laws and the administrative processes that govern what the county does and the county business. And part of representing part of the representation of the Harris County Attorney's Office in a county as big as Harris County is that the legislature has mandated that they also represent the Department of Family and Protective Services. That's CPS. Okay? Another arm of the Department of Family and Protective Services is APS, and that's Adult Protective Services. Y'all have heard of those organizations, haven't you? Yeah? You know what they do? No? Somebody tell me what you think they do. Because this is, I don't know if y'all know, it's really hard to be up here talking to people that just stare at you. Right? It's really difficult. Anybody know what CPS does? What you think they think? What do you think they do? Anybody?
Just protects kids.
They protect children, yes. Their primary goal is to keep families together, though. Their primary goal is to keep families safe and to keep families together. And so in the construct of those rules and parameters, the legislature gives them some laws to follow that they have to kind of live by, and that's how they are able to keep children safe. And so sometimes that means removing them from the home with a legal process. How about APS? To keep adults safe. There you go. Look, you're a me. You're a young me. So yes, to keep adults safe. But the difference is, so I'll give you a little difference between CPS and APS. Children think they have a lot of rights. I bet y'all are part of that generation that said, we have rights. Right? You told your mama you had rights? My daughter told me that when she was about 10. I said, you got rights, all right. Right? So children think they have rights. But everywhere in this country, if you see a child being beaten, hurt, harmed, or injured in the public, you have a duty to get between that child and the abuse. Did you know that? Didn't know that, huh? You think, oh, that's their personal business. But you can technically step in front of a child that's being abused if you're brave enough, or you can call the police, right? And you can stop a parent from doing that. That's because children don't have the same kind of rights that adults do, right? You could see a mentally disabled adult in the same situation being abused in the same way in public, and unless that adult tells you they want you to help them, you cannot without legal process. Okay? So adults, there's a different legal process for them. We actually have to get orders to force them to accept services and to help. My particular group that I manage at the county attorney's office doesn't do that, but there is a group that does, and we call them the elder group. And so once a person is determined to be in need of that kind of help, they typically need a guardian, and the probate court in every county handles those proceedings. So a lawyer on the behalf of APS often, or in our instance, the Harris County Guardianship Program, they actually go in and by way of affidavit and testimony, they go in and prove that these people need help because they can't help themselves. They can't make decisions, right? So there's a whole process that goes on with that. But with CPS, there are very limited instances in which CPS can remove people's children without legal process, right? One of those being when CPS gets an investigation, they go out, and when they conduct their investigation, if the CPS caseworker believes, and let me tell you, the CPS caseworker is not an expert in the law. CPS caseworker is what we call a reasonably prudent person. What would a reasonable person do or think or say about a certain situation? That's what we're looking for when we're talking to our clients, right? That person walks into the home and they think, if I leave this kid here, it's going to get hurt, harmed, injured, or killed today. I can't leave without this baby or this teenager. Then that's called an exigent circumstances removal. And we're mandated to go to court on the very next day to file a lawsuit to make sure that the parents are aware of what's going on with their child. But that's a really horrible situation, and usually we don't like to find children in those situations, but we do. A lot of people think that CPS only deals with physical abuse, right? Because when we hear abuse, you think, oh, it's somebody's beating a kid, right? But a lot of our cases are neglect because of drug use, right? We're kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do with all these marijuana cases. Because a lot of counties now are not prosecuting marijuana cases, which is trickling down to the civil aspects of it. So it's like recreational use, you know, can a child make a sandwich? Is a baby too young to be in the house with somebody who drinks, like somebody who does alcohol? So there's a lot that goes into our factoring. There are other lawsuits that we file, but mainly when you see the news, those are the ones that you think about the most. Trying to cover all my bases. Would I do anything else? Is a question I've asked myself. I probably wouldn't. Not at this point. I'll be 44 this year, right? And I've been practicing law now for in November it'll be 18 years. I don't know if I'd ever do anything but CPS law or child welfare law in some form or fashion. As a manager in the county attorney's office, I manage 78 people. Okay, I have 28 lawyers, and I have 50 non-lawyers that are comprised of paralegals, e-file clerks, and word processors. We manage 3,200 cases. So each one of my lawyers carries a caseload of about 100 to 120 cases each. They go to court 700 times a month, all together, not separately. Go to court 700 times a month, and all of our cases have to be tried in a year. Typical lawsuits, if you are a civil attorney, would typically be filed within a statutory time period, but could go on for years and years and years. The legislature doesn't want children to languish in the foster care system. So they put some parameters on us. And we have to have certain hearings within certain time frames. But most of my lawyers probably try about 10 or 15 cases a week. Okay? So when people encounter me, if I particularly handle lawsuits in court, my boss doesn't really let me go that much anymore because he needs me in the office, but I like being in court. I don't like terminating parents' rights. I would prefer that children go back home to their parents, and that's the best day in court. The best day in court is when you see a mom who was ravaged by drug use get herself together, accept all the services that CPS gives her, turns her life around, and then she gets her babies back. That's the best day in court. Second best day is when children who've been severely abused, whose parents' rights have been terminated, are adopted to a family who loves them and will give them some normalcy. Worst day is when I have to terminate people's rights. But I don't mind, right? Because when people encounter me, I tell them I'm always going to treat you with dignity and respect. Always. Never going to be mean to you. Never going to talk to you poorly. Never going to look down at you. But I always like to tell people you have an option. You have an option to choose to be parents or choose drugs or choose whatever your vice is. And if you choose that, is there a family member that your child can be placed with? Is there a fictive kin or somebody like a neighbor? Is there somebody who your child can go to? Because I'm going to terminate you. Okay? So that's what my group does. Now in the county attorney's office, and I didn't even tell you his name. His name is Vince Ryan in Harris County. He is the elected official for the county. And you know, Harris County is the biggest county in the state of Texas. It's bigger than about 3 or 4 eastern northern states put together, okay? Within the county, we have a county CPS as well that supports the state CPS. In the office of the county attorney, there are lawyers who represent the county from lawsuits like defense attorneys. They get sued because of car wrecks, that sort of thing. They have a group called the Compliance Group that's managing all of the toll road legislation, or not legislation, but toll road tickets. So, you know, you run the toll road, they're the people who send you the tickets, right? Then we also have an arm of the county attorney's office who deals with trafficking and anti-trafficking efforts and stuff like that. Nuisance abatement, you've heard about game rooms. Have you seen that on television? Yeah, you see those stings about the people in the game rooms gambling in Houston, and then allegedly they're being harmed by people who go in to rob them and that sort of thing, our office works with the local law enforcement to shut those game rooms down. Now, I don't get to do all that fun stuff. I'm just protecting the children. So at this point, I think I've talked myself blue, right? And y'all have just been staring at me. I'm sure you have questions. No? Please tell me you have questions. Y'all know everything there is to know about everything? Yes? No questions at all. Y'all probably got credit